Peace and blessings, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Space Invaders TV. I'm your host, Rashawn, aka Looker. Like I said, peace and blessings be with all of you. As you see the title, we're going to be speaking about mental illness in our prison and jail facilities around the country here in the U.S. And pretty much it's like this. There's roughly 1.8 million inmates in jail and prisons around the country right now as we speak, and that number has dropped a little bit, but still in all, that 1.8 million that are incarcerated. We're not going off of race or what race is in there, who's in there, what if there's more males than females. We're not going to get into that. We're just speaking as a whole, because we're talking about mental illness, and mental illness disorder doesn't have a race or a gender that it just attaches itself to, as many diseases and things, and as well as drug abuse. It doesn't have a gender or creed or whatever it attaches itself to. It's just it happens to people, for whatever reasons. If when you're talking about mental illness, if it's something that is passed down, that is just something that's within their genes or something within their family bloodline, whether it came from drug abuse, they could have been born from a mother that was, and father as well too, that was a drug abuser, and things of that nature. So and it's very real. So like I said, with 1.8 million inmates around this country in our prison systems, everybody knows somebody that's in our prison system in this country, and that's just factual. You may not have nobody in your per se family that's in our jail or prison systems around this country, but you know somebody. You have a friend that may have somebody, or a friend of a friend that has somebody. So everybody knows somebody, and let's be clear here, like, the prison system is not there to rehabilitate. There's some prison systems around the country that may have better maybe better facilities and have different programs. Then there are others that don't have those programs. There are jails that don't. Some inmates that want to come out and be productive in society, they have to find other prisons around their state or whatever to get transferred to, that may have certain programs that can prepare them for when they enter back into society. You understand? And the prison systems have become, especially the private prisons, and if you know anybody, and if you have a family member or know someone that's in prison, you know that it's costly for everything now. Putting money on their books, the way you have to do it now, buying certain items. They can't, they have to only buy things from commissary now. And if you don't know what commissary is, it's like a store in the prison where they can get some of the things that they want, and some things are very high priced. They don't get much of what we may get out here in the grocery store. When we may pay one price for it, they may pay 2 times more than that, or they may not be getting the same amount of a said product you may buy in the convenience store or in the supermarket or wherever, grocery store, whatever. They may not be even they may not get that same amount that you may get, and they may be paying more than we're paying out here. Now I know some people right about now may be saying, "Who cares? They did a crime." You're right, but if you have someone in that system, then you understand. Then you understand like how crazy it is. Even putting money on the phone, for on their books for the phone it's the way that it's done now, it's it's a little, but you know what it is. Uh, so it's become a not to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just trying to open it up for you a little bit before we go in. It's become a cash cow, the prison systems in general, mainly the private prisons, but in general. Um, and let's be clear here. The prison system isn't a pleasant working place either. Okay, uh, you people are not just walking around happy all the time. You understand? Any part of the day, any moment or whatever. It's a somewhat of an intense environment depending on the level of prison you in. It's an intense environment. And a stressful environment. If you're working in it as well, as a stressful, intense environment, and anything can happen, and everybody is in a danger in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know what can happen, especially if you have a bunch of violent inmates and you're working in a unit where there's a bunch of many violent inmates. Anything can go down. Anything can go down. So there's a lot of, when someone's working in an environment, PTSD is, even, I don't care how many years and high experience one may think they have been, or how many years they've put into that system, you suffer some type of post-traumatic stress disorder because of the fact of the things you may have seen throughout your time. If you've been working in that system for many years, we have to be straight up and real about the things you might see in a prison or in a jail. These ain't this ain't things. First of all, the way that you have to live, okay, the way that one lives, that they have to live. We have refrigerators. We put our things in refrigerators. You have folks that have to keep their milk and juices cool. They don't just bring you ice. You have to clog up a sink and put it in. People do all types of stuff, the survival tactics and things. So just you being a correction officer, or being in being a medic or a nurse within the system, a counselor, especially those counselors, you seeing and hearing these stories every day. This is your life. That could be post-traumatic stress disorder. You can suffer from that, from the things you've seen. So you imagine if you work in that environment, and then a person who's actually housed in that environment as an inmate daily can do a lot to you. And I know, again, once people say, "Oh, you do the crime, you do the time." Yeah, but let's think about something real quick here. If you have a person that's in the system for blue collar crime, and we say blue collar crime, white collar crimes and stuff like that, like someone is doing check frauds, or something like a drug dealer and things of that nature, like they're not, let's just say, non-violent offenders, okay? They're in there for a non-violent crime, and then you're in there with folks that have actually done some serious, killings and, rapings, and then the level of these crimes that these violent offenders have committed You know what I'm saying? So you have a family member in there and they encounter these folks. So you have a family member in there and they encounter someone that has a mental illness disorder, and your family member may not even know and may not even identify with that, but they're in a survival mode. But you have somebody that's mentally ill in this unit with them. You know what I'm saying? Or in this tank that they may say with them. Okay? And your family member is just in there. They're not a violent offender, but they're in there with a violent offender. Your family member may be non-violent offender. This offender may be known as a violent offender. Now your family member comes in contact with it and with that type of said individual while incarcerated, and then maybe your family member gets brutally beaten. Okay? Now we go to another level, and then this is what I want to get to. Then folks speak out when it happens to them, when it hits home with them. We have to get on point with certain things and be proactive before it happens, and identify with certain behaviors and certain things, and certain treatments, the way folks are being treated, and things of that nature. Like, there's no real benefit of our mentally ill citizens being in jail or in prison. There's no benefit to that at all. Okay? And it's actually like a wasting of taxpayer dollars, because we need to get those who are dealing with mental illness to a place that they can be looked over and taken care of, and where people who are trained to handle them, and it's only like, psychiatric hospital is a place for them. The jail cell, that's not a place for, that's not a place for someone dealing with, mental illness. And we got to be real. The prison systems aren't equipped for that. They're not equipped for that. Okay? They're not equipped to deal with that, and that's why you have so many instances happening. And, and then later come to find out that this one said individual suffered from a mental illness disorder. So much so we have issues with our police forces around the country. And not to how can I try to say this with not to really put too much ownership on the said officers, because we have to go back and we need to think about something here. A lot of these officers, and we just being real, a lot of these officers never even been in the environments that they even put in, let alone being in the environment that they're in with people that may be walking around them dealing with a mental illness. So they're dealing with a double dose of something, when they're in some of these environments that they've never been in. You take somebody that's been a rookie on a force for 1 or 2 years, and you put them in a neighborhood that, that is ridden with crime and all types of things, and then on top of that you have, the mentally ill, in that environment. And not only that, you have mentally ill doing crimes, but because sometimes they're off of their meds and nobody, so there's a whole lot of things going on. But then you have those that are mentally ill that just walking amongst everyone, and they may do something and it may not even be a crime, but because some are not identifying with that, the police get called in, and then now the police are not, the said officers or officer is not identifying with that, and then what happens is they weren't trained on that. So then what happens was it goes from 0 to 100, and then now whatever this mentally ill subject or what have you is apprehended, harmed in the situation, or the officer may be harmed, not understanding until the end that this said individual was dealing with a mental health disorder and had a crisis, you know. So that is ownership that is put on the cities and states, because you have to train, you know, your said officers when they're going out into the field, and they have to, because you're encountering all types, especially if you're put into a major metropolitan area, you know, like you're gonna encounter so many different folks, you know, so many types of different folks, even drug abusers, alcoholism, you know, those who abuse alcohol. I mean, you're gonna you gotta know how to deal with these type of folks, because again, when we talk about alcoholism, you have folks that are not violent when they drink alcohol. You know, they may be as calm as all get out, but still they're not coherent enough, and they may not still take the orders. They may have done something that was a little off or whatever, and law enforcement is called, and their response may not be, you know. So then again on that, so again you have to know how to deal with these said types of individuals dealing with these different illnesses. So I said that to say this, and what brought me to this situation and topic, because I was looking at the local news, and for the privacy and respect of the families, I'm not gonna say names or anything like that, but I was looking at the local news, right, and it was a young man was in the local county jail here, right, and I'm in Guilford County, North Carolina, right. A young man was 21 years old. He's in the county jail, right, and he assaulted a correction officer, a 71-year-old correction officer. And this correction officer has many years in law and corrections and everything, about 4 decades in, right? But not to make the long story short, he encountered this young man, and the young man supposedly had told him that, you know, for whatever reason, it was said that the young man wanted to go back in his cell. Don't really know what all took place of all of the information I tried to find doing my research. The young man, to make a long story short, the young man jumped on the 71-year-old correction officer and and beat him till he was incoherent. Like he was out of it, you know. So this week here, the young man was I want to say on January the 25th, they sentenced the young man to 10 years for that crime, 10 to 15, I believe, for that incident. And the wife of the correction officer, she, you know, and before I say this, it's all understood, you know, and that's why I'm not trying to put names and everything out there, either party, because it's a sensitive situation. There's a man here that's doing his job, and he's got many years in the field, and this happens to him. And what we got to understand is what I've said previously before this, okay? You dealing in a hostile environment, and anything can happen at any moment. And, you know, for that to happen to that man, he come to work, you know, and it's sad on both ends, and we're gonna get into it, right? And the wife, she's like the wife of the correction officer. She was like, you know, she had no. I mean, she was cold the way, you know, she came across about the 21-year-old. It was kind of cold to me. And I'm not knocking her at all. She had every right to feel how she felt. Okay? Every right to feel how she felt. And not knocking her at all. You know, that's her husband. And your husband has been pretty much, you know, he's not coherent. And when he was in the hospital for that, they said 49 days. Her husband was in the hospital and he was like on, you know, like he was just it wasn't a good situation, right? So she said the wife of the correction officer said something, and and this was what stuck with me. She said, "Yeah, the young man, he should have got more time. He should have got more time. But we're happy that the county and the state gave the maximum that they can give that young man. But we feel that it's not enough. He should have got more." And I felt her 100%. Okay, I'm not knocking this woman at all. Whatever. I'm not knocking her. But then on the flip side, I'm listening to more and more. I'm listening to the clip that they're playing of the entire, and they're going over the case, briefly. The young man obviously, and they all knew that this young man suffered from a mental illness disorder. Okay. His own public defender said it. Others acknowledged it there, from my understanding. Even the news, when they reported it, they made a mention of it. So it's like, okay, we all know that this young man that attacked this 71-year-old man had a mental he deals with a mental disorder, right? So he obviously he was in a crisis, right? So obviously, and then another side, when we think about the correction officer, why would you? And I'm not trying to knock, but I'm just being real here. The correction officer was a 71-year-old. Okay, why was he by himself? Why when he had to deal with that young man, why was he dealing with that young man by himself? See, there's a lot of variables to this that we have to think about. And there's things that we think on the surface, oh, yeah, he did the crime, he do the time. Yeah, you hurt my loved one, you did. All understood. But in this situation, we have to be sensitive. And I don't think as a country, I don't feel that we're 100% sensitive when we're talking about mental ill. There's a lot of talk, a lot of it being tossed around in media and everything. It's tossed around a lot. Mental health, it's tossed around a lot. But as a country, we haven't still identified with it and learning how to really put things in perspective. Someone who's dealing with a mental illness should not be in a prison, period. They shouldn't be in a prison. They need to be in a place where they can get the actual help and medication on a daily, around the clock. You cannot put them in a system where they are not built for that. That's just like you putting a special needs child in a public school system. The public school system is not designed for the special needs child. Point blank, period. So when you have somebody that's the same thing, just on the flip side, when you have someone dealing with a mental health disorder, how can you put them in a prison system, a jail, a county jail? They can't. That is not built for them. They're not set up that way. We have to cater to the needs. We have to, if we're gonna do things, we have to do it right. We have to cater to the needs of folks that we're dealing with. Period. So then when something that's just like someone that we watch the National Geographics and all of that, right? Anybody's into that, you watch those shows, right? And then but we also have people out here that I don't know their names off top, but we got people out here who likes to, what I call, taunting animals. Like, you like to mess around and taunt these animals, so you're gonna go out there and stick your head in the mouth of an alligator. So when an alligator chops your freaking head off, no one should cry for you, okay? Because we all know what the alligator goes. If you go out there and you prancing around and you running around a bunch of lions and hyenas, okay, and they maul you down because you're out there and their eyesight, they're predators in their eyesight, you're food. And they're wondering like, what you doing out here? Oh, okay. So don't dance with the lions if you're not a lion. Plain and simple. Like, so it's like, why? We cannot put people in situations, man, that they're not fit to be in. We have to identify, okay, they do a crime, but we have to identify the level and who we're dealing with. What type of individual are we dealing with if we're going to incarcerate them? Okay? The Treatment Centers Advocacy Center.org, right? They said approximately 20% of inmates in jails and 15% of inmates in state prisons have serious mental illness issues. To sum it up, there are approximately 356,000 inmates in jails and state prisons around the U.S. dealing with severe mental illness. That's a lot, man. So I just said it was, from in 2020 they did the stats was 1.8 million people in our prison systems, right? So you take out of that 1.8 million people in our prison systems, we have is 356,000 that are dealing with severe mental illness disorders. Like, come on, man. Like, why are they there? Why aren't we not? And so then when we look at things that happened to the 71-year-old correction officer here, like I said, once again, I didn't give up names. I'm not giving up names because of the sensitivity of it and just the respect, on both ends. Because it's a sad situation because this young man that did that to the 71-year-old, it was wrong. But then he was wronged because he's in the wrong environment. He's not in the right place that he should be in for the treatment that he needs. And it was sad to me when I hear that the people, like the public defender for him, his lawyer, the young 21-year-old young man that's dealing with mental illness disorder, that young man, they all knew this. The judge seemed to know this. They all knew this in there. And this young man is just still being tossed to the wolves. We're going to still keep him in this lion's den. If he's off of his, when he's off of his medication, and if he's not given his medication, he can become a terror to the whole lion's den. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why isn't it, paid attention to? Why aren't we focusing more on this? I'm gonna read you something real quick here. This here is from again from treatmentadvocacycenter.org. All right. Serious mental illness has become so prevalent in the U.S. correctional system that jails and prisons are now commonly called the new asylums. In point of fact, the Los Angeles County Jail, Chicago Cook County Jail, and New York Rikers Island Jail each hold more mentally ill inmates than any remaining psychiatric hospital in the United States. Did you hear that? I'm going to read that again. In point of fact, the Los Angeles County Jail, Cook County Jail, or New York Rikers Island Jail each hold more mentally ill inmates than any remaining psychiatric hospital in the United States. I'm going to stop right there, okay? Those are county jails. Rikers Island is a county jail, and it can be, like, people can do, like, some state time there. Like, they can hold inmates there. They can kind of do their sentence there, I think, like, I don't know offhand, but they can be there, like, they can't do, like, 15 years on Rikers Island, but, I think you could probably do maybe 2-3 years. I don't know if anybody, if you're a correction officer in Rikers Island, or if you know more, or maybe you were an ex-inmate there, let me know in the comments or whatever. But what I'm saying is, those are county jails. They said of fact, the Los Angeles County Jail, Chicago Cook County Jail, New York Rikers Island Jail, each hold more mentally ill inmates than any remaining psychiatric hospital in the United States. Overall, approximately 20% of inmates in jails and 15% of inmates in state prisons are now estimated to have a serious mental illness. Based on the total inmate population, this means approximately 383,000 individuals with severe psychiatric disease were behind bars in the United States in 2014, or nearly 10 times the number of patients remaining in the nation's state hospitals. And we got to think here, we're housing mentally ill patients, again, around other said individuals that may be murderers and things of that nature. So you putting, you have that on top of that around, you have this type of individual around this type of individual. Then you have someone who's a non-offender in the middle of all of this. Okay, that means not a non-offender, sorry, non-violent. They're not a violent offender. So they're in the mix of these type of individuals. Man, that's a recipe for disaster every time. Even though I've known that some systems they keep certain inmates away, but when you're overcapacitated, you go wherever their space is in those facilities. Okay, when they can't keep separating and they're overcapacitated in this one unit over here, then they got to send you wherever. You understand me? So it's like, what? Why are we doing this? Why are we not focusing on more psychiatric facilities? Because when you look at these numbers here, you need more of them. So even if that's said that if you don't have it in this state, but the neighboring state to your left or the right of you, if they have the psychiatric, then you may need to transfer that inmate to that place so you can get them the adequate attention that they need, because that also relieves stress from your correction officers. That also gives your correction officers more protection, that they don't have to deal with those type of inmates that are dealing with mental disorders. You know what I'm saying? We have to put things in perspective. So I just wanted to stop and talk about that today, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it is Thursday, January 27th, 2022, if I hadn't said it earlier, which I didn't say it at the start of it. So, yeah, I just want to drop in and talk about that, because, and just put that on the radar, because that was something that bothered me when I heard about the 71-year-old, first of all, he's 71 years old, correction officer, and you work in this environment, and there's inmates that's quite younger than you, and let's just be quite real, like they're gonna be stronger than you, okay? And for one, and then to be around, and for that 71-year-old correction officer to be in this environment, and he had to deal and come encounter with someone that was mentally ill by himself. That was another thing. And again, these facilities, these county jails, these state prisons and things of that nature, they're shorthanded too from correction officers. They're dealing with different things of correction officers that had to go out because of COVID, or maybe some of them may have quit because they didn't want to contract the COVID. And because let's be clear here, when you working in that system as a correction officer, a nurse, a counselor, whatever, in the kitchen, overseeing the inmates who's working under you, if you one of the head cook in the kitchen in these facilities, you're dealing around. Let's be clear here. You're in that environment, you become that. That is your job. That's what you do. You got to understand, they're locked up, you're locked up too. You're coming to work. You're just able to exit when your shift is up. But you're coming to work and you're locked in with these said individuals. Your mind state, you have to, the things that you seeing every day, you knowing, wait, this is not a regular job. You just can't go take that job for a check. You got to be built for that. You got to be built, how they say, forward tough. You got mentally, you got to be built to come in that situation, because you got all types of people that you got to deal with, cons and manipulators, and you got to deal with it all types of whatever the types of individuals you're dealing with them in the jail and prison system. You dealing with them, and you coming in off the street every day are nothing more than prey to many of them, and you got to be mentally tough. Every day you got to be on it. So I don't care what you're dealing with, what's going on in your home. When you come in there, you come in there. Your mind, when you come to work, you, as a correction officer, whatever your job title in the jail and prison system, you better have your antennas up, because you can get it knocked off at any minute, and that's real. It don't matter how much you may go work out every day as a correction officer, whatever your position is in there. You're dealing with somebody that's gonna be 10 times bigger than you. So most times, and you're gonna be dealing with people that think they're more wittier, more wittier, slick slide than you. So you got to be on. So it's an environment that, if you work in that environment, the things that you're gonna see, it's gonna be hard for you not to take home some of the things, because you don't know what you may see on the day. You may see something that really may jack you up. There's no way you're not gonna think about that on the way home. If you a correction officer, yeah, you could be hard and everything, but at the end of the day, you're still human and have a heart. Okay, so it may be something so drastic that you may see. You're gonna take, unless you become so numb, and then that's scary as a correction officer or anyone working in the system, that you become so numb that don't even bother you, but it does, and it has affected you. You just don't know it yet. You just haven't identified with it, so that's still bad. But yeah, I just wanted to drop in and speak on that. I'm gonna have another show I'm gonna drop on the 28th as well for you folks, that we want to talk about. I want to talk about some things as well, and I want to talk about the cost of living. I want to talk about the inflation of goods. That's going to be the next show on the 28th, on January 28th, 2022, on Friday. We're going to speak on that, and we're going to compare some things and compare some counties, and just starting with my own county that I reside in, and the surrounding counties. From there, we're going to branch out from there, and I'm going to just start from where I'm at, and then you can tap and do the same thing with your county, and compare numbers and things, and see how it's really not even adding up, which we all know that inflation is not adding up. Even you had the president of the United States, Joe Biden, he just trying to speak about it and trying to figure out why, in a sense, like why are we having this inflation. So that's going to be another topic we're going to talk about on Friday, January 28th, 2022. But ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to drop in and talk about that, because the mental health, because that is serious. And my heart goes out to the families and everything, and that has a family member that's dealing with mental illness, because I've spoke on that and have a family member that deals with that as well, one of my siblings. Okay, so I know what it can be, and just anyone that may have had to come in contact with someone that was dealing with a mental illness, and they were in a crisis, and you had to come encounter with that type of person, and it didn't, and it may have caught you off guard, startled you, and you may have got into a little incident with somebody dealing with that. My heart goes out to you as well, because everyone, in this day and time, especially what we all seeing, especially over these last 2 years. So let's think about it. Think about the heightening level for some people dealing with mental illness and everything during this pandemic, and what it has done, and what it has done, and what has done to people that might have weren't dealing with any, like, but it just sent some people over the edge, you know. The mental of every day hearing on the news of what was going on, the death toll and this and that, just talking about the pandemic and we need you to take this and you should take that, or who shouldn't take this and who should take that. Could you imagine? And then you got to deal with your everyday, and if you don't know how to just block certain things out, some people don't know how to do that, and when some people hear things, they just go because they, you know, everyone is different. Everybody mental is set up different, and everybody's approach to things are different. But that's why I wanted to, you know, with my channel here, I try to talk and come and speak on different things and try to give a different enlighten people, enlighten folks on different things that's going on, and not come with the tunnel vision. I like to come talk about many different things that's going on around us, you know, nationally, locally, and globally, that's going on around us, that is not spoken of. And most times people only speak about things when they're affected by it. And learning to talk about things, being proactive about situations, like before it even happens, like let's make people aware of what's going on around them. Make people aware of their surroundings before, you know, because so many times when we deal with situations, we don't. It becomes like common now that certain situations happen. Then now someone wants to educate themselves on it, instead of if you hear it early on, because most of the times you're not the first person to ever deal with a situation. So when you hear it early on, to tap in and educate yourself on it, and listen to some literature about it or whatever, read some literature about it, I should say, sorry, and listen to others who may have some knowledge for you, because waiting until something happens and then it's like, oh, now it happened to me, now I want to talk about it. Be proactive and talk about things. Get into the know early. Get ahead of the situation and not behind the situation. You know what I mean? Get ahead of it, and then that way you can help everybody be ahead of it. And that's what I'm about here. Just talking about things, getting people ahead of the situation, and however you want to. I don't tell everybody how you want to handle it. You know, how you want to handle it. I just try to come as a messenger, give you the message, you get ahead of it. You know, when you put others ahead of you, don't get behind the situation, get in front of the situation. You know what I'm saying? So that's my time, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all. If you're a subscriber, you new subscribers, thank you. You know, my old subscribers, I thank you. Continue to keep following, continue to share the page. I say that every time. Share the channel. Continue, please, to share the channel. Spread the message. That's my time, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I will be dropping another show on Friday, January 28th, 2022. We're going to talk about inflation. I'm going to go into that, and we're going to compare. I'm going to start with where I'm from. You know, I like to do that. But I know it's a nationwide thing going on, inflation. But I'm just going to start where I'm from, and I'm going to branch out, and I'm going to show you. And then you could go where you from. Look whatever state you're in, and you can go and look around the counties and see how is this inflation really affecting everyone. Okay? So, and we're going to go look at the levels of pay rates and everything, how this whole thing affects everyone, and why is it even so. But that's my time, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all. Peace and blessings. See you next time. Space Invaders TV. We out.